Welcome, everyone. Glad you're here. This is I believe, our sixth virtual Tableau user group. I think when we started doing this, we figured it'd only be 2 or 3, and here we are. But glad you're working through the Zoom life like we are. And we've got a couple of speakers today. Before we get into that, I believe we have a few announcements as well. Jim, are you ready with those?
Just real quick, you don't have to show hands or anything, but I hope everybody is going to join us next week at the virtual conference. If you haven't signed up, you can still sign up. They have a great roster of speakers this year. As a matter of fact, they've got some really high quality entertainment. I don't know whether you heard, but John Legend is going to put on a concert for us. So there's still an opportunity to sign up if you haven't signed up. Also, there's an opportunity to do brain dates. And one of the things I wanted to mention is I'll be doing brain dates again on calculation. So if you're interested in a brain date, you can sign up with me on, just go to the brain date site and pick any time that's available. Gladly meet with you. I'd love to talk with you about those. But the conference is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. So look forward to seeing some of you out there. Back to you, Nick.
Thanks, Jim. So our first speaker today is Steve Mostello. He's done a number of presentations for us in the past. He's been with Tableau a number of years and has a lot of technical experience with Tableau as well as sales experience, and all around just a great guy. So we'll start with Steve, and he is going to introduce 2020.3 feature changes to us for us. And yeah, the floor is yours, Steve.
Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. I've known Nick for as long as I've been with Tableau, and I've been with Tableau for a little over 6 years now. And I'm currently the lead solution engineer, and I work with our partners across the United States. And I work with our partners at supporting our industry verticals, because earlier this year we moved to a more of a vertical model. So I support our partners in the healthcare and life sciences, FinServe, and retail and consumer goods. So I will talk about 20.3, which came out last month. And we'll go through all kind of hit the new features here. We'll start out with the visual analytic features that came out. So we've added more flexibility for users in how they can create relationships between tables for their data sources. Users can now relate tables based on custom calculated fields like concatenated fields or date truncation, and inequality operators as well. And additionally, we've improved the drag and drop experience in the data model. Previously, if the user wanted to replace a table, the user had a couple of options. They could remove the table from the model and re-add it. If the table was an intermediate table, it not only removed the table, but it also all of the descendants. Or they had to open the table to show the physical layer and replace the table in the physical layer. So now users can just drag and drop to replace the table in the data model. And in addition to that, the user, they can move any object and its descendants to another location in the graph. So we have predictive modeling. It's a new prediction function, and it goes beyond the existing trendline analytical function to build a model that understands how your data is distributed around a best fit line. So there's a function, model underscore quantile is a table calc that returns a target value at a specified percentile based on other predictors. And then there's the model underscore percentile, and that is a table calc that returns the probability of the expected value being less than or equal to the observed mark based on other predictors. The values predictive model functions allow advanced analysts with limited access to data science resources to make predictions that they don't rely on a time axis, and to populate sparse data and identify outliers, and to use their predictions in additional calculations and export them to data files. The follow-up when we shipped the set control feature in version 20.2, we further improved its ability to target enterprise scenarios and its ease of web authoring. And with the set control, you can now respect context filters, which is an important element for enterprise workbooks that deal with large data volumes. Because in the enterprise, end users, they're typically asked to first set up their view with context filters in order to scope the data. And context filters can now scope the domains of set controls by restricting the set of values they display. And that ensures that users can work with only the selections relevant to them. And we've also added UI entry points and web authoring to toggle set control visibility to on in your dashboards. And that's accessible through the dashboard zone context menu. And these entry points mirror the ones on desktop and make it simple for web authors to incorporate those set controls in their designs. And actually, we were just talking about this moments ago. In the 20.1 release, we came out with dynamic parameters. And the queries for dynamic parameters were evaluated when the workbook was opened. And we can connect to the field's data source for the first time. But now in 20.3, the queries are evaluated when the data source is manually updated. And this can take place by hitting F5 on desktop, selecting the refresh option in a data source context menu, or by clicking the data source refresh button in the toolbar, which is available in Tableau Online and Tableau Server. And then we added the in operator. So this is use the in operator in calculations to test whether a specified value matches any value in a list of comma separated values, a set, or combined fields like city-state combinations. And the in operator, it supports string, numeric, date, and Boolean data types. So what did we change? So prior to the introduction of this feature, customers, they would need to use a series of or other less efficient workarounds. And this in operator makes calculating language more flexible and more useful in using sets. And as you can see here in this example, without that in operator, you would have to have that 6 different when statements there. And then search improvements as well. So you can use filters in the data pane to refine your search and find the right field you need for analysis, and search and filter based on field name, type, or even comments. So you can keep users informed of data quality warnings while they're performing their analysis in Tableau Desktop. With a quick indicator on the data source, users can get information they need about the state of data. And then so the features for server and online. So in the web UI, we have export cross-tabbed Excel on the web. So users who export crosstabs on server and online, they can now export them to Excel rather than just a CSV file. Excel crosstab export has been a huge customer request for quite some time. And it also aligns the desktop and server online experiences, because desktop has always had the ability to export crosstabs Excel, while server and online, you had to export to CSV. And also in the UI, web UI, users, they can customize the PDF page orientation and page size of their PDF subscriptions. So when creating a new subscription and a PDF is included in the selected format, users have the ability to customize their options to their desired pages, page sizes, and orientation. And then now you can export the dashboard button to export a crosstab on Tableau Server, making it easily exportable for end users. And now with on server and online is the shared with me tab. So you can be able to quickly access projects, workbooks, and dashboards that others have shared with you on server or online, all in one place via the shared with me tab on the home menu. You have customized views are automatically saved separately so that you can quickly navigate to the personalized view you need. And so we're making it easier to optimize your organization's seed investment and extend the value of Tableau to more users. So those of you that are site admins, you can now designate members, specific individuals, teams, and departments, or even your entire organization to be automatically granted a site role, which would be viewer, explorer, or creator, upon their first time logging into either Tableau Online or Tableau Server. And you can deploy Tableau at scale without having to manually respond to individual license requests and be able to quickly scale up when needed. And now you can set a subscription email to run after the underlying extract is refreshed, making it easy to get the latest data out as soon as it's available without having to go in, refresh 1,000 times or go on and check the status of that extract. You'll get that email as soon as it finishes. And now you can tag stale content directly from the stale content admin view for easy follow-up with content owners. So that way you can tag that content as stale. I know I've actually had this feature used upon me because in our version of Tableau Server, which we call Alpo, they had tagged some of my vizzes as stale content. They weren't actually stale, but I had to actually go do a few things to make it so that they wouldn't get deleted. But that's a good way for your organization to keep the content clean and not get overloaded with vizzes that people are no longer using or maintaining. All right, so now into Prep Builder and Conductor. And this was a big feature that was asked about when Prep first came out. I guess it was 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago. The ability to write to external databases in Prep. So you can store your Prep data from Prep Builder in a centralized location that can be leveraged throughout your organization. You can govern and scale the investments you've made in your databases by providing a visual and direct field mapping experience to ensure your Prep data ends up where it should be. And so this initial release, being able to write to databases, yeah, you can write to SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, Teradata, Snowflake, and Redshift. And then LWC, this is the Lightning Web component. So this was actually just released this last week. And so now you can embed with clicks and not code, which makes it a whole lot easier of embedding Tableau into Salesforce. In order to use LWC, the customer must be using the Lightning edition of Salesforce. And this makes it considerably easier to embed Tableau into Salesforce, because before, in order to do that, you had to do a bunch of other things. You had to use our Canvas adapter and set up another server. And now you're able to just embed it just with a few clicks. And that's available now. Now onto connectors. So SAP HANA Connector improvements and a new SAP certification. So for our HANA Connector, users now have the ability to connect to table functions, and those are stored procedures that return a table. We have also officially released the official achieved the official SAP certification, which is HANA BI SQL 2.0 for integration into HANA on desktop, Prep server, and online as well. And we have a white paper on that as well. So for guidance and best practices around integrating it into HANA and optimizing that experience. And then we've released new connectors in the extension gallery. So customers looking to connect to data sources beyond Tableau's native connectors. With this, they can now find that through the Tableau extension gallery. And it's built by partners like Cubal, Germio, Yellowbrick, and Scream. And you can go out and test these new connectors today through the pre-release program. And those are the new features that were in 20.3. And I'm sure next week, the beta will come out for 20.4. And hoping to, I don't even know what's going to be in there yet. So I'm hoping there's going to be some nice surprises, not only what's coming in 20.4, but also for TC conference during the, I don't know if they're going to be doing a devs on stage, but there's going to be like a product roadmap. We'll be talking about all the new things that will be coming out next year. With that, I'll turn it over if anybody has questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
There was a question that came in through private chat that regarding the in statement.
Yeah.
That it was clear in the demonstration that you could supply, string literals or values, explicit values. But is there a way to do a combined field in the in statement, and or to put sets in the combined statement? Or in the sorry.
Yeah, what was the first part? Can you do a combined statement? I don't know. Can you,
like a combined field. You know how you can take 2 dimensions, right, in Tableau, select them both, right click, create, and combine them to kind of make a combined key, or basically do
a combined field.
concatenation.
I'm sorry. Yeah, combined. Can that be a combined field?
Right. So could you have a in and then combined field values, like looking for particular combinations of those 2 fields within the in statement?
I haven't tried it, but that would be a string, so should be able to do that. But I can look into that and I can reach back out to you, Nick.
Okay, and then the other was, is it possible to put a set inside the in? So you could have a case, I don't know, employees, and then when in, and then you would say top 10 employee set.
Yeah, let's see.
I think that may not be the exact syntax, but I would imagine you could do that just normally with set functionality.
Yeah, well, it supports string, numeric, date, and Boolean data types. So if it's a set, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. It's something I could try as well.
Okay, well, yeah, I think the workaround would simply be case true, and then when set, then that would be when the set is true. But then at that point, you might as well just have an if statement, if set, then blah.
Yeah, I guess unless you had multiple sets, I guess that's why you'd want to use it in an operator if you had like 5 different sets you wanted to go through.
Right.
But I'd have to try it. I'm not sure if that would work. Combined field should work because it's a string, but I'm not sure on the set.
Okay, and then there was I think Eric asked a question. Eric, do you want to speak to that yourself, or you want me to read it off?
Sure, I was just curious if they're working on Tableau Prep to be able to create hypers that incorporate relationship models. Right now, it's just sort of one table.
Well, you have that. Yeah, you do have the ability to. Right now, you do have the ability when you do an extract to do multiple tables. Right, it doesn't have to be a single table.
Can you define the relationships with them then?
Yeah, I'm not that I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to, sort of be able to do that modeling piece that is in Tableau with relationships in prep, or so to speak. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually that could be what might be coming later. Let me double check on that.
Woohoo! That'd be fun next week.
Yeah, I don't know if it's that soon, but we'll see. I can find out.
All right.
I'm seeing another question about the predictive modeling functions.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go back to that slide?
Sure.
And maybe speak to, you said that there were two functions, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's the model quantile and then the model percentile.
So what would the data set need to look like? I'm seeing it looks like you would supply it all of the measures, or aggregate it, all the aggregations that you want included in the model.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And it would return to you whether the rows or like where would the result land per dimension? Like, does it return as its own measure?
Yeah, so this is gonna be a table calc. So this is going to be like another field that appears in your viz, right? This is a table calc.
Got it. So the grain is whatever's is in the viz.
What's in the view?
Cool.
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully that drove a bit more detail for the person asking. Any other questions? People want to ask through chat or?
I got a question, Steve.
Yeah.
On the output to the tables, is there a maximum number of records that it will stop at whenever you output into like a SQL database?
Oh, for Tableau Prep?
Yeah, Tableau Prep. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any, if there's any hard limit. Have you run across a hard limit?
No, I haven't. I was just curious. I was just wondering if that was one, if you knew if there was a hard count or a hard stop. So I was just curious.
Yeah, there shouldn't be. It'd be just dependent on the data source and whether or not you have enough space in there.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Like with Oracle, having the table space.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Steve, this is Jim. I agree with you. I don't think there's any hard stop limit.
Yeah.
Coming out of threat.
Yeah, I haven't heard of one.
I'm sure the only limitation is your RAM or hard drive.
Yeah, and how long you want to wait too. So.
Right. Right. Any other questions?
Anything else? All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Steve.
I'm going to start sharing my screen. I want to first introduce or remind everyone that after the talk and any questions you might have for what I have to share, we'll be doing kind of the round robin random breakout rooms just to do some semblance of mingling. I don't know about you, but one of the things I miss most about the in-person meetings is just being able to chat with you all, ask you the standard kind of networking questions that I happen to genuinely be interested in. I'm hoping that you all are too. And for those who may be kind of nervous about doing that kind of activity, we've got some questions to maybe get you started. We have people from all kinds of cultures and backgrounds, so asking someone how their name is pronounced is a great start. Also, just asking them how long they've been using Tableau, what first brought them to a tug, how they might use Tableau today, or how they hope to use Tableau soon, and which tug session that you've been to is your favorite and why. Another one might be, what are you looking forward to, or what are you hoping to see in the upcoming conference? Just things of those nature, and hope you stick around for that part. We will close close to 5, or at least dismiss everyone who wants to leave at 5. So don't feel obligated to stay if people do stick around. And with that, I'll get started talking on stuff. So the topic I have is a bit loose. I want to touch on the aspects of both kind of the social side of it as well as the technical side of it, and that's how to overcome the challenge of when the stakeholder, the intended user of an analysis or the data you're working with just wants a spreadsheet. Like they're coming to you because you're in analytics or you're in reporting, and really all they want is a data extract. I find myself in that situation a lot. I've found myself in that situation since well before I started using Tableau. Just any kind of visual analytics. Seems like people just love their columns and rows. And I'm guessing that you all have run into that, or you can imagine that you will run into that soon. So I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've discovered over time that have helped people see the power of visual analytics. And yeah, I think you'll like this in that it touches on the multidisciplinary scenarios that we often find ourselves in, right? A good dashboard will leverage good design, good psychology, as well as good data. And the first thing I want to mention, and that's why I have it here shared, at least a picture of the book Drive. And in it, by Daniel Pink, it talks about the surprising truth of what motivates us. And it comes down to three things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And the problem that I feel like we're faced with is Excel is familiar. People have, in business and in IT, autonomy, or at least a sense of autonomy with Excel and spreadsheets. They have a sense of mastery with it. They've been using it for years. It's been a staple of the business world across industries for decades. I think purpose loosely applies to the situation, but I think largely I'm going to focus on the autonomy and the mastery aspects of the AMP model. And the reason why I think motivation, autonomy, and the mastery pertain to all this is we have to motivate people to change. We have to motivate people to open their mind, to look at other ways at looking at things, not just in columns and rows and data, but also visually. So the things we're running up against, spreadsheets are familiar, they're flexible, and they're functional. I'm sure many of you got started with Excel, or at least use Excel extensively. You might even use Excel in combination with Tableau to do your analysis, to answer the questions you have of the data. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's part of what needs to change too, is not only our stakeholders' willingness to use Tableau, but also maybe our willingness to let the stakeholders have columns and rows. I think the problem also carries over into analytics and visual analytics. For lots of business users, if it's not a chart in Excel or a two-dimensional chart of some kind on one screen, and that's all there is, it's foreign to them. Having a fully interactive dashboard where everything is clickable and it drills everything else on the screen is overload. It's truly information overload for them when they're already experiencing that day to day with emails, social media, and everything else. Also, analytics is fixed. You can make a perfect and pristine dashboard, put it out there, and show everyone how to use it. But if they have follow-up questions, they have to come to you, right? And unless they have their own desktop license, unless they have a license to Power BI or they have the training, they're stuck with what you gave them. And to touch a little bit on what I said before, it's also full. It's crowded, and lots of times and I find myself in this situation, being in a department that's devoted to analytics, being in a center of excellence. I might be really good with data in general. I might be really good with Tableau in general, but I don't know their business. Like HR might come to me with all kinds of metrics and questions they have, and it can be a big ramp up for me to catch on to what they're really asking. What are the real questions? And sometimes I find it's easier just to show them how to use Tableau than it is to show them how to teach me about their business questions. So now that I've kind of set up the problem, and hopefully if any of that was new for you, you can empathize with what I'm teeing up for you here. some of the solutions, right? I think there needs to be a two-pronged approach. There needs to be short-term things to incrementally influence people to change. And I think there needs to be longer-term solutions that might be above your pay grade. I know some of these are above mine, but I think as you implement these shorter-term solutions and begin to champion visual analytics in your departments and with your stakeholders, they'll slowly get the message. And the longer-term solution can be much more on the horizon. So let's see. Minimize this.
Nick, there you go, guy.
Yep. So yeah, can you see a Tableau Desktop screen?
Yes, we can.
Great. And whoever's making sure people are getting admitted in, thank you. Appreciate that. So here's just a spreadsheet, right? I took some data from an organization I'm a part of, and you know, like anything else, there's dimensions and there's measures. And I imagined if they wanted to see a spreadsheet of our information, this might be what they want to see. You know, there's these dimensions, there's, you know, attendance metrics. You know, a common flip might be to do something by date across instead. So we'll go with this for now. And like any other spreadsheet, it's boring. One of the things that you can do to help, but also go with it, like give them what they ask for, but deliver what they need. And I think that needs to be a mantra of ours is, you know, you want to give them whatever they're asking for, the metrics, the calculation, and the way they expect to see it. And then as soon as they're satisfied, after you show that to them, then you give them the little bit extra. You give them the lagniappe. You say, well, after doing this and looking through the information, I think you might be interested in some of these things. And then you only show them a small difference. People don't handle drastic change very well. So here's a situation where this is the spreadsheet. I'm still giving them what they asked for, but then I've also threw in aggregations, you know, rolled up versions of those spreadsheets that are, they have actions, right? That they're action enabled. So if somebody wants to drill on, well, maybe I didn't add the action. I did. Okay. Picking something that's, there we go. So you see it filters to certain cities, and then we can filter to certain dates. I think this is also a good practice to avoid drop downs and excessive filters across the top. Those can get ugly, clunky, and before you know it, you've made just an SSRS report or some run-of-the-mill spreadsheet report. So here you can make informational filters. And this is only barely visual, right? Like I haven't done any kind of coloring, I haven't done any kind of sizing, but we will see some more here. So next up, it's the same thing, but all I did was just a stacked bar aggregation of the attendance numbers by city. This could very easily be its own action as well, right? You could click and drill and filter the rest of these spreadsheets, these data grids, whatever you want to call them. Getting a bit more informational, this could also be a kind of a spark line bar graph. Real quick, these are great for giving a bar graph, but in compact space. Technically speaking, like this is the common way to do a bar, and you've got the axis, and in my experience, I often just hide the axis, especially if I have labels, and you end up with the whole, you know, the grid lines. You can make a lot cleaner view by simply taking this measure that you want to make the size based on and bring it down to the size shelf. And you might typically find it this way. I'll put it back. So this is kind of a quick tip, quick trick that I like to do. Makes things more compact. And then to show the value, to help give that perspective without having to show the axis, you just show mark labels. So this is a way to dip their toe in the water of visual analytics. There's a ton of other options and opportunities. Like I mentioned, you could highlight the columns and rows. As I showed, there's the drillable grids. The other thing too is offer Excel-like features. This can help ease the transition, right? So if I'll go here and add a filter on, I'll do city, right? This is the default filter. Every time I will change it to multiple values drop down, only relevant values. That way, if they filter elsewhere and then they click this, they don't see the whole list of all the cities. They'll only see the cities that apply after the filter, other filters have been applied. And then this is the bit of extra that makes it much more Excel-like. It's going to customize and show apply button. If your dashboard or your worksheets are on Tableau server, well, even if they're not, right? If you have this way and you want to uncheck 3 of these 7, or you want to have 4 out of the 7 checked, you click, well, maybe, yeah, and then you have to wait for the refresh, right? That is annoying. And if you think about when somebody creates auto filters in Excel, they have the apply button. So they can unselect all, make a few selections and click apply, and then it does 1 refresh. So not only is it good for your users, it can be good for you even if you're just testing out your dashboard, but if yours is a live data source connection, you're also sparing multiple queries against your database. If nothing else, you're also saving system resources on your Tableau server. So, reduce the pings to the server as much as possible. So for me, that's just a big win in general. And it even helps ease the transition for people from Excel reports to something like Tableau. Some other things that in general can help a lot, you might have heard of the 5 whys. And it's just a concept where when somebody says they need or want something, you ask them, why do they need it? Like what will they be able to do once they have this information? You might settle for what will they be able to know with this information, but preferably it's do, right? We want actionable insights. We want to know how what we build is going to be used. If for no other reason, we want our work to be meaningful, right? We want to know that what we're doing is worthwhile. But it can also help you bridge the gap between what they don't know and what you do know, and vice versa. They know their business and you know analytics. So those are a lot of the, I guess, short-term workarounds. The other thing I wanted to show, and I'll put this link in the chat. I got this link from Steve Mostello, actually, just before this meeting. And it's from tessellationtech.io. And they have 26 tips on how to do more with tables. So they've got bold text, highlight, and in this particular article, it's just showing things to show ideas, like what it looks like when it's done to help you pick, almost like from a menu. Towards the bottom, they have links with more detail for some of these. And yeah, there's the ultimate guide. But I would say, like, I know Jim or I, and I'm sure Eric too, and probably many of you, if anybody in the tug asked how to do the more arrow, or how to do a shape highlight KPI thing, we would be able to answer that. Part of the struggle I think our group has is knowing what we don't know, if that makes any sense. Us on the leadership team, we're always kicking around ideas on, well, what topics could be good? Like what is it people want to know? And oftentimes we're just guessing in the dark. So I think a link like this can help you all form more specific questions about what you'd like to know, what you don't know already about Tableau. And then we can do more to help teach each other and make us both a little less blind, in that blind leading the blind analogy. Let's see. The other thing I think I'd like to demo real fast is, again, in the spirit of giving them what they asked for, but delivering what they need. These are a series of dates, right? This is begging for a line graph of some kind. Well, then go ahead and, take it, duplicate it, and convert it to something more visual, and then throw that in as a secondary mock-up. Let's do that. I'll just go with that for now. I don't want to spend this entire time polishing and making these things beautiful, but then I can take this dashboard and duplicate it, because all I'm going to do is add one more so it's just adding on, right? Adding value and making it more visual. Any questions? I know this is kind of like a somewhat pragmatic, somewhat high concept, so anything is open, really.
Nick, I've got a question. This is Stephen Pert from Vanderbilt Finance. Going back to that size shelf that you demonstrated, how is this different than if you just kept your original graph but just made the whole width narrower to fit in that same space? Is it functionally doing something different?
I think you can build it that same way. I feel like there are more steps. There's more clicks to get there. So if I just took, this is kind of the vanilla version of the same thing.
Right.
And I put it side by side. So here now, and even if I make it entire view, well, now I've got to right click, show header, and go back in and either, like show mark label. So I guess I would have done that step anyway. But then the part I always dislike is going in and finding the lines I want to remove. And that's either messing with the format lines here or back on the axis. I think these are just the tick marks and not, okay, yeah. So I can take tick marks off there, not show header. Nope, I still got a tick mark there, so I've got to find, go to remove the zero line, axis rulers, axis ticks. It's one of these. I don't, but this is the kind of stuff I like to avoid.
So by doing that size shelf, that just saved a lot of steps and kind of automated creating like a little small version without all the manual steps. Is that kind of right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Now, let's see. I think something came in chat. Was that the question? No. Okay. Any other questions?
Hey, Nick, earlier when you started this, you mentioned the learning curve from understanding the business to just teaching them Tableau themselves. like what's kind of your process to identifying that threshold of, you know, I'm just going to teach you Tableau?
I think if their data is really messy,
Yeah.
like lots of times my data source is going to be a database, right? It's not using a lot of Excel files and such, but if everything's in Excel and CSV and it's all VLOOKUPs, and they're not interested at all in losing that, I might just say, hey, it's your data. You will be able to put this together a lot faster. I think ideally it's a hybrid approach though. It's to be collaborative. So starting with whatever it is you know, whatever it is you do feel comfortable with, even if it is making bar graphs and spreadsheets with the data that makes sense to you that you can see after you pull it into desktop, show them that, right? Like just show them a bunch of random worksheets of things you found interesting and let them point and say, I like that, I don't like that. Or even work with them and change some of that stuff in real time. And when they see how easy it is and what's possible, that can unlock their imagination and get more specific with the questions they're trying to ask. So, I mean, it really is just trying to engage in a conversation and show rather than say.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Any others?
This is pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, I'm really quiet. Sorry.
It's all right. Well, if there's not any other questions, I'll need just a moment to set up the rooms. Thinking as far as from a procedure standpoint, I guess if you don't want to participate, you're welcome to leave the meeting. I'm going to stop the recording.